and they told me that I could get my EMT and learn the 911 system, and it sounded exciting. And then once that exposure happened, I fell in love. I fell into a career field where I was given purpose and I was able to help people, and then on top of that, I was told I could make a lot of money. Which at 18, it did seem like a lot of money, I will tell you, falling into your career. Originally, I actually wanted to be a doctor, and I tell a lot of people I'm not a doctor today because I didn't know a doctor. But I am a paramedic, and I became a firefighter because I met paramedics and firefighters. I come from a family of public servants between the fire department, corrections, and military, so that just became natural to fall into that same zone. So I started with my department in 2003. So originally I was with Baltimore City, and then when I became of age, I actually went to a neighboring county that had better opportunities. So in 2003, I started off as a probationary EMT with the fire department, which is Baltimore County. Baltimore County is a very, very unique county. We're one of the biggest fire departments in the country. We have almost 3,000 members, around 54 firehouses, just to put it in perspective. And today you are talking to the only Black female fire chief in all of the departments. So to talk to you about the rank structure, you start off as an EMT or a firefighter, and then you work your way through the ranks. And most people never make it to officer because nobody really wants to deal with the headache of it. I went into this environment very naive. I was 20 years old when I was hired. And it was easy and it was fun, but it was not. The work was fun, but the people were not nice to me because the people in the firehouse did not look like me. It was very, very common for me to be the only woman and the only Black person in the room at any given time, and I was treated accordingly. And when you're 20 years old, you don't understand why people are treating you a certain kind of way. And throughout that process, you try to just fit in to make everybody happy. You know, when you start to dim your light, or you do whatever it takes to make everybody comfortable, but in the meantime, you carry that home with you. Because you never understand why you can never do enough to please these people around you. So I will tell you, for a long time, I presented with the bare minimum, and I got the joy out of helping people, which was why I showed up in the first place. So that's what fed my soul in the environment, but I was very, very depressed and anxious in the environment as well. But I also thought it was normal. I didn't have anybody to tell me that it wasn't normal. At the time that I came in the department, there was less than 100 Blacks in my department, and all of them had dealt with it. So it was normal. And I coped in that environment, but I did not thrive for a long time. When I say I didn't thrive, I wasn't living in my light, and I was showing up, and I was miserable. I tried to quit my job 3 different times. God never let me do it. It just never worked out. And I'm talking about, like, I left to go to different, I wanted to be an esthetician, then I went to start a business. Then, I mean, every time something happened and I ended up back in the fire department. It was just like, it made sense. And then over time, I started to have these feelings about, why do people treat me the way that they treat me? Why is there so much attention on me, and not just me, other Black women in my department? Or I would say minorities in my department. And then I started to realize, like, if somebody is trying to deter you from doing something, there must be something special about that thing, right? Like, what are they gatekeeping? What are they hiding? So as time went on, and I realized that no matter what I could do, I wasn't pleasing anybody, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be just really, really good at what I do. And I was a really, really good EMT firefighter. And everybody in my family was proud of me because they could tell everybody that I worked for the fire department, but I knew in my realm of work, I was an entry-level employee. I wasn't anything special in my industry. And then I got pregnant and had my daughter. And a flame was lit under me to be something that she could be proud of. I grew a pressure in my gut for legacy. I wanted my daughter, when she looked at me, to be like, that's my mom. And I knew that I was operating as an imposter because I was presenting in my personal life like I was doing something special, but I knew in my career realm I wasn't. But when I looked at my baby, I had to stand in that truth.
Yes.
My daughter was born, and then I decided to go to school to be a paramedic. I took an accelerated 2-year program, which is a 4-year program. I took paramedic in 2 years. Came out top of the class. I become a paramedic, and I loved everything about being a paramedic. I mean, people have no clue what it's like to be in a position where people call you when they're at their lowest. You know, when they have nobody else to call, when their heart stops, when their heart doesn't feel right, or I might put them on the EKG and now I might have to push the medicine that's gonna stop your heart and restart it. But to be able to be of service like that, you know, like living in that economy of God, to be like, you know, I'm a servant and I do something good in the world every day. I was content with that. And then the harassment started. Every day I would come to work, there was something. And I would be stressed out and deterred and da-da-da-da-da, and it would just go on and on and on. And then I would go through these bouts of depression, and then I was getting written up, and then I'm always fighting the write-ups because I knew that the write-ups were bogus. And I'm like, why are these people always trying to oppress me? Why are they always messing with me? And when I say oppression, I'm talking about trying to minimize something. And I'm just showing up and I'm minding my business. It's always something though. So one day I went to church. And the preacher preached this sermon on Psalms 105:15. Touch not my anointed and bring my prophets no harm. And in that moment, I had that aha epiphany moment that I'm being attacked because they see my light. I'm being attacked because they are threatened. They're threatened because they see my potential. Your enemy studies you and knows you better than you. You show up every day being regular, you know, like I've always been authentically black. I've had dreads, I've had bushes or whatever. Like I'm not perming my hair. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna be pretty while I be a firefighter. I am not conforming to what you want me to be. It's just what's gonna happen. So when I had that moment of enlightenment, I realized, I said, oh my God, I've been gaslit all these years. Do you guys know what gaslighting is? Mm-hmm. So in that gaslighting, what happened to me was these people were making me seem like I was the problem, I was the problem, I was the problem. So I was always fighting battles, but I wasn't paying attention to the war. Mm. When we get hired in these environments, these predominantly white, Irish-run environments, they do it for, the main reason is federal funding. And then they harass us and they abuse us until we leave, after they get their funding. So what happens over time is people come in and they do the bare minimum to keep their benefits, and you get really decent pay, especially in comparison to the other people in the world, but nobody ever accelerates through the ranks because they always beat them down and have them in a place of where they don't want to be anything more. So then I said to myself, well, instead of focusing on the battle, I'm going to focus on the war.
Yes.
I currently hold over 15 certifications within the fire service and through FEMA. I'm a rescue tech, a hazmat tech, a paramedic, incident commander, inspector, instructor, you name it, I got it. Education became my weapon. I used education to become unavoidable. So what happened was that I started to learn their system more than them. And then in the midst of that, I was like, what do you have to do to get promoted? A multiple choice test? So the first time that I tested for lieutenant, they actually did a test the year before and enough people didn't pass the test. So we have what's called a fire lieutenant and we have an EMS lieutenant, which is the strictly medical lieutenant. They gave 2 tests at the same time because they didn't have enough fire lieutenants. I took both of those tests and came out in the top 3 on both of those lists the first time I took them.
Yes.
And prior to that, they refused to even let me act as a supervisor, but now a fire was under their behind because they couldn't deny me.
Yes.
And all of this came from, when I say win the war, well, maybe if I get promoted, I can stop you from having to say something to me because now we're equals. But then when I became the fire lieutenant, I was a fire lieutenant, but I wasn't like a fire lieutenant. You know, you know how that go, you know. Now the subordinates, it's okay to undermine me. It's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. And I even got caught up in some of that, and then I was like, here we go again, because I've seen this enemy before. Mm-hmm. This is what y'all do. Every time something happens, y'all come with a distraction. I'm gonna let you have your way and I'm gonna test for captain. No worries. No worries, I'm gonna throw up my hands. And here I am today. In the midst of all of that though, what I have done is I've changed policy and procedure along the way. Because every time, the battles weren't in vain, because that documentation forced them to start documenting and moving in a way that brought change for everybody behind me, and the ones that were against me. And even right now, like, I have gotten in a space where I don't even fuss with them anymore, or I wouldn't say fuss, I don't debate, I'm just file with the EEOC now. And regardless of how people feel about that, I know that ultimately change will come with enough documentation. So I say all that to say, when you're operating in that space of what felt like isolation, and I still live in it today, sometimes we really, not sometimes, whenever you're down, think about your perspective, because my isolation isn't isolation, it's actually incubation. Because how did I end up here, right? I'm in an environment that's always trying to silence me, but somehow I ended up in Lubbock, Texas, speaking to a room of people all the way from Baltimore. So I'll tell you that the pressure to get promoted, the pressure to end up in leadership, it came from a desire of legacy, and now it has evolved into a desire for mentorship. And outside of what comes along with the mentorship is I want to open up and bring light to industries that are often not talked about in our community. And I know me personally growing up, like nobody knew what it was to be a firefighter, and if you did, it was like, oh yeah, he drives for the chief. Like you never knew somebody that went into the fire service and was successful. It was always minimized. But in the meantime, now that I've infiltrated that industry, these people are building generational wealth. Why? Because they run the unions and they put the salaries where it works, and then they hire all of their children.
Yes.
And everybody is coming through, and we have multiple generations in my department. And you're talking about people that are creating legacy and family ties and all of these things right on a government dollar.
Listen, that's good stuff.
It is.
Good stuff.
It is. Public safety is a wonderful environment to be in. It is very, very rewarding, and it is a best kept secret. It is. So I want to continue to do what I'm doing in educating people about public safety and about the industry, but outside of that, stay in the course. Because like, people will look at me today and they see me today, but they don't see the 21 years or the 22 years of preparation, the pain, the sleepless nights, the divorce, and you know, the times that I didn't show up for my family and all of those things. But I don't look at it like a burden. It's part of the process. It's just part of the process. And I can sleep at night knowing that going through all of that is going to change the trajectory of not just my life, but my children and all of the people that I'm erecting change for. To be one, you got to see one.
Yes.
You do. Thank you guys.